Mr. Feagles, there is one game left in the regular season, and the Giants are still alive for the playoffs.
Yes. I mean, I would have taken that 3 or 4 months ago if you told me that. So I will take it with 1 week left to go. So you're saying there's a chance.
Exactly. That's what we're saying.
They really are saying a chance.
For those of you who have been sleeping for the last 24 hours and, maybe you just had too many Thanksgiving leftovers still hanging around a month later, or maybe you were drinking eggnog a little bit too much over the course of the Christmas holiday, the situation is as follows. The Giants will host the Dallas Cowboys at 1 o'clock on Sunday. The primetime Sunday NBC game, which has been flexed into Sunday Night Football, is going to be the Washington Red Team and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, it's really very simple. The winner of the Giants-Dallas game is still alive. They go into primetime needing Philadelphia to knock off Washington to capture the playoff bid. Philadelphia is the only one of the 3 teams in the NFC East that has been eliminated. Should Washington win, it does not matter what happens earlier in the day. They will claim the NFC East with a 7-9 record. Again, if they should not win, the Dallas Giants victor becomes the NFC East champion and has the number 4 seed, which at the moment would play the number 5 at home, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I don't believe they're locked into that number 5 spot at the moment. John, I know you're producing with us today. I don't know if you've got any details on that. I don't think Tampa is locked into the 5 as of yet.
Do you have your khakis on?
I don't have that in front of me. I do not have my Kornacki khakis on at the moment, but I can put them on and check it for you if you like.
Well, I took a look and I don't have any confirmation of exactly where the rest of the seeds land. I do believe that the Rams are still in contention. Are they not for that 5th spot? But I do not know the answer to that.
Well, the problem is that Jared Goff is also battling a broken thumb on his throwing hand, so that might end up being moot anyway.
It could be.
And where are the Bears in that? The Bears are somewhere in that mix too, right?
No. The Bears are 8-7, so that's not going to happen. But you've got the Buccaneers are at 10-5, and as we sit here today, they are the top wild card in the conference.
I didn't mean them playing the Giants. I meant them being in the playoffs. The Rams and the Bears, aren't they very close at being somewhere?
Well, yeah, the Bears are 8-7 and the Rams are 9-6.
Okay.
But my point being, if the Bucs have clinched a playoff spot, that much I know.
The Bears and Cardinals, Jeff, are battling for that last playoff
so it's the
spot.
Cardinals. Okay.
I think that's what you're thinking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I knew it was in the division there, but I didn't know who it was.
Hey, you know what? We don't really need to talk about the 5th seed right now, so maybe it's my fault for bringing it up. But just as an FYI, just so you know, okay, the Bucs are 10-5. The Rams are 9-6, and one of those 2 teams, I think it's still open, is going to wind up being the number 5 seed and will play the winner of the NFC East. That's the reason that I brought it up for no other circumstance other than to let you guys know that's where the playoff picture sits as we speak.
Well, the bottom line, the Giants got to win, period. That's it.
Well, I understand your perspective, Jeff, and of course they're in this predicament.
Forget about everything else.
Well, they're in this predicament because they are on a 3-game losing streak, having fallen to Arizona, Cleveland, and Baltimore. You know, it's interesting. Logan Ryan said something the other day, and I don't know if you caught it, Jeff, in one of his press briefings, but Ryan was talking about how difficult the Giants' schedule has been. And the truth of the matter is, the NFC East, which has had a very difficult time slogging through the mud this year, really caught a horrible break because they wound up drawing the 2 toughest divisions in football in the same season. I was just looking at the Giants' schedule, and outside of their 6 division games, if you look at their 10 games that they played this year, 8 of those 10 teams have a 500 record or better. There's a 12-win team, an 11-win team, 3 10-win teams, and a 9-win team. I mean, you talk about having to climb a mountain when you're in the midst of trying to get back into respectability. is there any wonder that the NFC East has struggled like it has when you look at the bulldozers that they have all had to face this season?
No, not going off of those numbers. No, I mean when you do look back at the Giants, and we can do this now because we're not in the building playing, and there's no. Well, you go 2 games. You look at the Eagles and the Dallas games. I mean, those were games that my goodness.
They gave away.
Man,
and they got, and they had to go up against 12 people, if you understand what I'm talking about with the stripes.
Sure. And the other thing, I think when we looked at the last quarter of the season, those last 4 games, I think we all agreed they had to win 2 of the 4 going into that 4-game stretch. We didn't think that they were going to beat the Ravens. I think that the Cowboys and the Cardinals were probably the 2 teams that they, or depending on the Browns or the Cardinals, were the 2 teams that we all thought that maybe they can get those wins, and they weren't able to get any of those until maybe even next week, hopefully. But that was a tough stretch for them. The Browns started playing better. The Ravens certainly started playing better, and the Cardinals just destroyed them. And the Giants just all of a sudden have just, these. I mean,
Jeff. Unfortunately, the Giants wound up with a gimpy quarterback against the Cardinals, and we could probably sit here for the next 10 years and talk about whether Daniel Jones should have played or not. But they certainly were limping into that game.
I understand, but if you look at the way that the Cardinals played, they played very well that
day. They did.
And
they did.
I don't know what the healthy Daniel Jones if they would have beat that team that day. I really don't. They were just – first of all, the defense was extremely scared, if you will, and I hate to use that word in the building, but they were very hesitant to let Kyler Murray out of that pocket and run, and then they left him in the pocket to be able to throw all over the place, So I think that's – but listen, from a player's perspective, I've been in this situation before. I've never been in this situation before going into the last game knowing that your record, what it is, to having a chance for the playoffs. That's never been an issue. At this point, everybody's got their U-Hauls out, parked in front of the facility, waiting for that game to be done and gone. But in this case, when you have a chance to get into the playoffs, this week becomes a playoff atmosphere in your building. Your focus is one team, one effort. Everything goes into this game plan. Forget about what's going on next week. All you care about is beating this team. Mm-hmm. And then you get, you're going to scoreboard watch. You're going to be able to watch your destiny in your own eyes happen Sunday night when you hope that the Eagles can pull off a victory over those Washington Redskins. And I don't know what the situation is with their quarterback situation, but Alex Smith might be coming back. So.
Well,
I kind of wish they didn't. I mean,
well, the red team has a significant issue at quarterback. I don't want to waste too much time talking about other teams, but I will say this: Dwayne Haskins showed you what Dwayne Haskins is. There's no question about that. He showed it all season long.
Well, thank God that Gettleman went the other way with that one. Remember?
Well, he listened to me. He's a smart man. But here's the thing, okay? They've now got an issue because Alex Smith has that calf injury, and if you listen to Jay Glazer from Fox yesterday, part of his calf was actually taken out when they did all that leg reconstruction. Mm-hmm. So this is a very serious situation for him. Mm-hmm. And then obviously, we saw what happened with Haskins. So, they're down to their 3rd quarterback. We know that Cox got hurt in the Dallas game last night, so the Eagles will be missing, clearly one of their primetime players. So Heineke, who is a 3rd string Washington QB and had a 5,000-yard season at Old Dominion, he's a guy who, is going to be probably counted on for them to try to do what they got to do. Anyway, here's the thing. Giants had a game yesterday that they did very poorly in. And I'll be honest, there's no sense in rehashing that game, but what we will talk about are some of the things the Giants have to fix as they go into the Dallas game. Their pass pro was terrible. 6 sacks, all in the second half. Did not run the ball at all. Obviously did not play for 60 minutes. Busted zone coverages on 2 touchdown passes where receivers were all alone and no pass rush whatsoever. I've just given you a checklist of all the things that the Giants had to do to be competitive in the game and potentially try to steal it, and they did none of them. That can't happen on Sunday.
Well, first and foremost, here's the thing that really surprised me from the Giants. The game itself, losing the game didn't surprise me. I think it was a very tough game for them to go win. What did surprise me, knowing that the Giants are a top 10 run defense, going up against the number 1 rushing team in the NFL, the tackling yesterday was absurd. I mean, it was ridiculous. And that's concerned me because this team has been a very good tackling team all season long, and they couldn't do it yesterday. And that, to me, was the biggest, I guess, issue with the Giants' defense other than their pass rush because they, for the first time all season, did not get a sack. No pressure, and they let him run for 80 yards and basically do whatever he wanted. So, and on top of all the other things that you just talked about, Paul. But the tackling was, I want to add to your list of things that they need to do better when they go play the Cowboys next week.
There's no doubt about that because the Cowboys have a lot of speed at the skill possessions, and then they've also got Elliott, who's a very forceful runner. So if you do miss tackles against that team, the Cowboys have guys who will take it the distance.
Well, and, okay. We talked a little bit about offense. We talked a little bit about defense. Can we go there again? I mean, I don't know what's going on with these coverage teams. I don't know. Riley Dixon, I don't know what's happening with him. He at the beginning of the season, he was kicking the ball outside the numbers, going out of bounds. And now these balls are, they're down the middle of the field or inside the numbers and, 17-yard returns, 19-yard returns. I mean, what is going on there, Paul?
The two things that are inexplicable to me, because we've watched this Giants team grow and have that 4-game winning streak, get back on their feet, try to get themselves out of the quicksand, only to get sucked back down. And the things that really disturb me are the lack of pass protection here down the stretch. No question the tackling that you just mentioned, and the fact that special teams, which was one of the 3 units that they consistently won over the first 10 weeks of the season, is now become, can I say a liability, Jeff?
I think you can, because I feel like if this team was, was doing a lot better in the other phases, that this would become a liability in the game. Because, this is a strong point for the Giants all season.
It's got to be.
Until the last quarter of the season. And, we've tried to wrap our head around it. Personnel moving in and out of the lineup, younger guys moving into the starting lineup. I don't know if you noticed or not, but last week they put Jabril Peppers on the kickoff coverage team, which helped a little bit. But, the kickoff, the punt returns, that is a product of, directional kicking and coverage, your gunners. Because when you get returns, okay, and I know this for a fact, folks. I mean, you may not believe me on the other stuff, but I understand punt coverage and how it works. Direction, get it to where you're going. And because when you call left or you call right and the ball and everybody's going there and all of a sudden the ball is not there, you compromise everything. And that's where these returns. So it all starts with the kick. The kick has got to be going where it's going to go. If we tell you to go right or left, it's got to be over there. And if it's not, then you're going to compromise the coverage team and you're getting big plays. A 55-yard punt's all great and dandy, but when you have a 20-yard return, it doesn't really, it's not much, right? So it is a liability. And you can't have that, especially going into next week. You're going to have to play solid in every one of those games. Dallas is a team that's on the rise. They're ascending. They've played some good football the last few weeks. They're scoring points, by the way. This Giants team is going to have to score to win this game. They're going to have to. They're going to have to score a lot more than 6, 7, or 9 points. That's for sure.
Well, Dallas has scored over 30 or more in each of their last 3 as they have suddenly come back from the dead and won 3 in a row.
And their defense is playing well. Their defensive line is kind of coming back. Gregory, I mean, just watching some of that game yesterday after our game, and it was just, these guys they're playing well.
It'll take in the high 20s at least to win this game. You're not going to win this game with 16 or 17 points, that's for sure. Big Blue Kickoff Live is presented by New York Lottery. The New York Lottery has released their seasonal scratch-off games once again. Head to your nearest retailer for the chance to win up to $500,000. Please gift responsibly.
Hey, Paul, by the way, very quickly, sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
but Ian Rappaport is reporting as of this morning that Washington believes that Alex Smith will be ready to play on Sunday.
They
Obviously,
do.
it's early in the week, but I just wanted to pass that on since you guys did mention it earlier in the
That's
show.
kind of
Yeah,
what we thought,
for sure.
right? I mean, I was thinking the same. But, hey, that's okay. You know, he can always drop back and, hurt his calf again.
Well,
Feagles,
it's
come
interesting.
on.
That's
never know.
really, the only thing I'll say is that Glazer
I don't
and
wish
Fox,
that on him. I'm just saying that,
It sure
calves are
sounded
tricky,
that
folks.
way.
Calves, it
Oh,
came
they
out that
are.
way. My bad. That's horrible.
No.
I apologize for that.
That's why I was surprised.
I know.
Now from Dottino, I expect that.
Oh, come on.
And
I
what
know,
I
I'm
meant
just
by that, John, I think you guys both know me well enough that I would never
I
do
know.
that.
Of
I know
course,
you
of
My
do.
course.
I know.
calves are tricky. It's very tricky because of, especially for a quarterback, the way that you plant, and I know that that's his bad, like Paul was saying with his calf and stuff. So, their backup. Listen, I did not mean that, and I apologize for that, Alex. My bad, because I have so much respect for that man for what he's done to come back. I mean, did you guys see the special on him, that 30 for 30 or whatever it was on TV about what he went through and some of the pictures that they had on TV?
Oh,
of
it's
that?
crazy.
Oh
It's
my
unbelievable.
goodness! So I apologize for that.
all right,
I didn't mean that.
No, and again, we're going to get conflicting media reports on him all week, I believe. Glazer was saying yesterday that there's no way this early in the week that the Washington Red team is going to be able to determine his status because they thought he was going to play last week. Then the calf wasn't strong enough, and he was saying it'll be the end of this week before they really know. So Ian Rappaport's coming up with his report. I appreciate it. Who knows? I still think it's a day-to-day situation.
Sure.
And the bottom line is, hey, let's face it. Dallas and the Giants, they got to look to win their game before they watch the primetime game and settle for whatever it is their fate is going to